I arrived early to my dad's retirement party just in time to hear my brother say, "Leave his name off the banner. He didn't matter here anyway." I had paid for the hall, the food, and every chair in that room. I said nothing, turned around, and before the cake was cut, Dad was staring at his phone. "My name is Cole. I'm 35, and I'm going to tell you about two parties. The one I planned and the one that actually happened." The party I planned: 84 guests in a rented hall on the east side, prime rib and roasted vegetables from Marco's Catering, a photographer named Jan who shoots with natural light and never asks you to say cheese, a custom banner that read, "Celebrating 35 years," with my father's name in gold and at the bottom, in smaller text, "Hosted with love by Cole and Kevin." A toast I wrote on cardstock. A $620 suit in a garment bag. A night where my father would sit at the head of a room full of people who watched him give 35 years to a job that gave him a pension and a bad knee. And he'd feel, for one evening, like it mattered. The party that happened: 83 guests in a room that emptied in 12 minutes. Cold food being packed into catering trays by a crew that had just been told to leave. A banner being rolled up by a decorator who looked like she wanted to apologize but didn't know to whom. And my father sitting at a table staring at his phone, trying to understand a text that explained where $11,400 went and why every chair around him was becoming empty. I need to tell you how we got to two parties from one plan. Kevin is my brother, 32. He has a quality that I've spent my adult life trying to name, and the closest I've come is this. Kevin occupies credit the way some people occupy couches, naturally, completely, without ever wondering who paid for the furniture. He shows up. He talks. He positions himself near the center of things. And by the time the event is over, people remember Kevin's toast, Kevin's handshake, Kevin's jacket. They don't remember who booked the hall. They don't remember whose credit card covered the catering deposit. They remember the performance, not the production. But Kevin wasn't always this. When I was 14 and broke my collarbone falling off a roof I shouldn't have been on, Kevin was 11 and the only person who visited me in the hospital every day for a week. He brought me comic books he'd bought with his allowance and sat in the chair next to my bed and read them to me even though I could read them myself, because reading them out loud was more fun, and Kevin at 11 understood that company isn't about necessity, it's about choice. That kid chose to show up. The man he became chose differently. The party I planned started 8 years ago. Not this specific party. The pattern. Mom's 60th birthday. I paid $4,200. Kevin gave the toast. My name wasn't on the invitation. Dad's surprise anniversary dinner. I paid $3,800. Kevin organized the guest list and forgot to include my plus one. My sister's baby shower, $2,100. Kevin told the family he split the costs. He contributed $0. Every family event for 8 years, I was the budget and Kevin was the banner. Total across 8 years of holidays, birthdays, and celebrations where I funded and Kevin fronted, $27,400. I keep a spreadsheet. Column headers: date, event, cost, who got credit. The who got credit column has one name in it. It isn't mine. 2 years ago, Dad got prostate cancer. Stage 2. Treatable. 18 rounds of radiation over 9 weeks. Kevin said he'd help with transport. He drove Dad twice. I drove him the other 16 times. I took half days at work, used PTO, rearranged my schedule around a radiation machine that ran on a timetable more reliable than my family's gratitude. I lost a promotion because my attendance flagged. My manager, a woman named Gail who notices everything the way good managers do, said, "Your numbers are fine, but your face hasn't been here." I told her about the chemo rides. She said, "I'm sorry. I'll note it." She noted it. It didn't save the promotion. Dad recovered. At the remission dinner, Kevin stood up and said, "This family got through it together." I was at the end of the table. Nobody mentioned the 16 drives. Nobody mentioned the lost promotion. Kevin sat down to applause for a sentence that cost him nothing and earned him everything. I've also been sending my parents $700 a month for 4 years. Automatic transfer. First of the month. $33,600 total. Gas bill, water bill, part of the property tax on a house that was paid off in 2011 but still costs $3,400 a year in taxes, and another $2,200 in insurance, and another unknowable amount in the kind of maintenance that old houses demand the way old relatives demand phone calls. Constantly, unpredictably, and with the quiet implication that failing to respond means something is wrong with you, not with the request. Kevin sends nothing. Has never sent $1. Has never been asked. Kevin visits every Sunday for dinner. My parents talk about these visits the way congregations talk about miracles, with gratitude, awe, and the unshakable belief that presence alone is sufficient proof of love. Kevin shows up at a house heated by my transfers, eats food purchased with the grocery money my contributions free up, sits on a couch I helped move 3 years ago when the old one finally collapsed under the weight of a decade of Sundays, and leaves with the warm satisfaction of a man who believes he's done his part by arriving. Each Sunday dinner Kevin eats at my parents' house costs me approximately $162 in subsidized utilities, property tax contribution, and infrastructure maintenance. I calculated this once at 2 a.m. sitting at my kitchen table with a calculator app and a glass of bourbon that was doing a better job of keeping me company than my family ever had. I closed the spreadsheet. Some numbers don't make you smarter. They just make you tired. So when Dad announced his retirement after 35 years at the Consolidated Materials plant, 35 years of driving the same route, parking in the same spot, D14, he told us once, like it was an address worth remembering, eating lunch at the same table in the break room with the same 3 guys, 2 of whom retired before him and 1 of whom died last spring from something nobody wants to name. I decided this was the event I'd get right. The last one, the real one, $11,400. My money, my contracts, my name on every invoice. Hall rental, $3,200. Catering from Marco's, for $1,800. Prefix for $84, prime rib, roasted vegetables, a breadbasket situation that Marco insisted on because you can't do prime rib without bread, it's structural. Bar service, $1,600 open bar for 3 hours. Which in retrospect is generous for a family that has never poured me a drink without expecting me to pour them something larger in return. Photographer Jan, $800. DJ, $600. Decorator Rita, $1,000, including the banner. Valet, for $100 because the hall's parking lot is gravel, and I didn't want 84-year-old Aunt Helen navigating it in heels she's been wearing to events since 1987 and refusing to replace because they still fit. Cole. Total, $11,400. On 1 credit card. 1 statement. 1 man's attempt to honor another man's career in a room full of people who would remember the evening, but not who made it possible. I booked everything through Diane, the hall's event coordinator, under 1 master contract. My signature. My card. 1 cancellation clause that triggers all services simultaneously. 7 vendors under 1 umbrella. I did this because I'm an operations manager and consolidation is instinct. 1 contract is cleaner than 7. 1 phone call is faster than 7. I didn't plan to use the cancellation clause, but I built the system the way I build every system at work, with a shutoff valve, clearly labeled, easily accessible, just in case the building catches fire. The building caught fire. The party I planned, the toast. I spent 2 weeks writing it. Handwritten first in a notebook, sitting at my kitchen table at 11 p.m. with a beer going warm because the words mattered more than the temperature. Then typed. Then printed on cardstock I bought at a stationery shop for $8 because I wanted it to feel permanent. The toast mentions specific memories nobody else has because nobody else was there. Teaching me to drive in a parking lot in the rain because Dad said rain is when you really learn. The phone call the morning I got my first job, when he said 4 words, "You earned that one." The morning he made pancakes the day after Mom moved out for 3 months during the separation nobody talks about. And he burned every single one and served them anyway, and I ate them because they were the saddest, most loving pancakes I'd ever seen. Nobody else has those memories. Nobody else was in that parking lot, or on that phone, or at that table. The toast is proof that I was present for a life my brother only attended when there was an audience. The party that happened. The hallway. I arrived at 5:47 p.m., 13 minutes early. I was carrying a garment bag with the $620 suit, navy, tailored, the 3rd suit I've ever owned. I was going to change in the hall bathroom. I had the cardstock toast in my jacket pocket. I walked through the parking lot, through the glass doors, down the corridor toward the private event room. The hallway smelled like floor wax and catering trays and the metallic tang of the industrial heating system. The building has been running since I was a kid and attended my cousin's communion here. I was 14 steps from the door when I heard Kevin's voice. Leave his name off the banner. He didn't matter here anyway. 11 words. I counted them later, the way you count damage after a storm. Not because the number changes anything, but because precision is the only thing you can control when everything else is falling. 11 words, spoken through a gap in a door I hadn't opened yet, in a room I paid $3,200 to rent, to a decorator I hired and paid $1,000, about a banner I designed and ordered and approved. I stopped. Step 12. My phone was in my hand. Voice memo app open. Still recording from the car where I'd been rehearsing the toast. Running through the pancake section one more time because the transition from the driving lesson to the phone call felt clunky and I wanted it to flow. Because flow matters when you're talking about your father's life to a room full of people who are supposed to care about him. The recording caught Kevin's voice through the door. Timestamped, 5:48 p.m. Saved to my phone between the rehearsal of a toast and the cancellation of a party. I stood in the hallway for about 6 seconds. The fluorescent light above me was buzzing the way fluorescent lights buzz in empty corridors, a sound nobody hears when the hallway is full, but that becomes deafening when you're standing alone in it processing the fact that your brother just told someone you don't matter while wearing a blazer to an event you funded. My phone vibrated. A text from Rita, the decorator, sent 19 minutes earlier while I was still driving. Hey, your brother asked me to change the banner. Said you approved it. Just confirming. She sent it to the number on the contract. My number, not Kevin's. Because Rita is the kind of professional who checks, who verifies, who doesn't take one person's word when another person's money is on the line. Kevin never expected her to check. He expected what he always expects, that the systems I build will continue to function while he stands in front of them and waves. I walked to the supply closet near the entrance. The original banner was there, rolled up behind a folding table, replaced by a new one Kevin had ordered from the same print shop. Same design, same gold text, same celebration, minus one name. He'd paid $180 for the replacement on Lorraine's credit card, our mother's card. He didn't just request a change. He ordered an entirely new banner, brought it to the hall, had Rita hang it while the original sat in a closet like a draft nobody wanted to publish. This wasn't impulse. This was premeditation. The way you premeditate a renovation, not a whim. Part of me wanted to walk through that door. 14 steps. 2 more, and I'd be inside, standing in the room I'd built from a spreadsheet and a credit card and 3 months of phone calls to vendors who now know my voice better than my family does. I'd see Kevin at the microphone, positioned where he always positions himself, at the center of something he didn't construct. I'd see Dad at the head table. I'd see the banner with the missing name, and I'd hold up the original, and I'd say nothing because the 2 banners side by side would say everything. Part of me wanted to pretend I hadn't heard it. Walk in, give the toast, let the evening happen the way I planned it. Absorb the exclusion the way I've absorbed every exclusion for 8 years, quietly, structurally, the way load-bearing walls absorb weight, without anyone noticing they're the reason the building stands. And a small part of me, the part one don't talk about because it makes me sound like the 11-year-old sitting in a hospital chair listening to comic books, wanted Kevin to come into the hallway and say he didn't mean it. I turned around at step 12, walked back down the hallway, through the glass doors, into the parking lot. The air outside was cold and smelled like car exhaust and pine from the landscaping beds. I could hear laughter from arriving guests. Car doors closing. The sound of an evening beginning that was about to end. For minutes in my car. Engine running. Radio off. I could hear my own breathing and the parking lot and the muffled bass of the DJ doing a sound check inside a room that had 12 minutes left. I called Diane. Second ring. Diane, it's Cole. I need to cancel the contract. All of it. Effective now. 1 second. All services. All services. I'll need about 12 minutes. She didn't ask why. Diane processes cancellations the way surgeons process emergencies, with focus, speed, and a complete absence of personal opinion. 7 calls. 12 minutes. Hall manager. Room revoked. Marco. Crew starts packing. Bar. Shuts down. Jan the photographer. Saves files. Packs gear. DJ unplugs. Rita. Pulls streamers. Rolls the banner. Valet. Walks away from the podium. The party that took 3 months to plan took 12 minutes to disassemble. I watched the valet walk away from his station. That was the first visible sign from the parking lot. A man in a vest walking to his car. Then the DJ carrying a speaker through the service exit. Then Marco's crew loading chafing dishes into a van. The building was being emptied from the inside out, like a house being packed for a move nobody announced. During those 12 minutes, Kevin was at the microphone, giving a welcome speech, thanking everyone who made tonight possible, listing memories, using the warm voice he uses at events, the one that sounds like sincerity until you realize sincerity doesn't usually come with a blazer and printed business cards that say event coordinator under a name that isn't on any of the invoices. He finished the speech. Applause. 15 seconds later, the DJ's speakers went dead mid-fade. The lights didn't go out. The sound just stopped. And in the silence that followed, 83 people heard what a party sounds like when the person who paid for it decides it's over. Kevin tried to stop Marco. Marco, who has catered 47 events for me over 3 years, and whose crew responds to contract language the way soldiers respond to orders, said, "My contract is with your brother." He canceled. "I'm breaking down." He said it politely, professionally, the way you say anything when you're being paid to say it, and the person who pays you has already spoken. Kevin called me. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. 17 times in 22 minutes. The voicemails escalated the way Kevin escalates everything, quickly, dramatically, and without ever once asking the question that would have mattered, which is why. The first voicemail, "What are you doing?" The seventh, "People are leaving, Cole." The last one, at 7:31 p.m., Dad is standing in an empty room. Dad was at the head table when the room started emptying. He didn't understand at first. Nobody does when a party collapses. It looks like a mistake, then a malfunction, then something worse. He watched Marco's crew carry food out. He watched Jan pack her camera. He watched Rita reach for the banner, the replacement banner, and begin rolling it up. That's when he saw it, or didn't see it. His eyes moved along the text and stopped where my name should have been. He said, "Where's Cole's name?" Rita paused. She'd been waiting for someone to ask. She said, "Your other son asked me to remove it." Dad sat down. He didn't speak for 4 minutes. The room emptied around him, and he sat at the head table in the silence of a man who just realized the party was a sentence and someone had erased the subject. At 7:14 p.m., I sent one text. "Dad, I paid for tonight. All of it. $11,400. The hall, the food, the bar, the photographer, every chair you're sitting in." Kevin told the decorator to take my name off the banner because I didn't matter here. I heard it from the hallway. I canceled the contracts because they're in my name. I'm sorry the party ended this way. I'm not sorry I left. Happy retirement. I love you. Dad read it at the head table. In the emptying room. Banner on the floor. He read it twice. Then he stared at his phone the way you stare at something that just rearranged everything you thought you knew. Mom called 20 minutes later. She said, "I read the text over your father's shoulder." I said nothing. She said, "I knew Kevin was handling the banner. I didn't know he removed your name." I said, "You knew he was handling MY banner for MY event and you didn't think to check?" She said, "I thought it was just coordination." I said, "It's always just coordination, Mom. For 8 years. Every event. Every dollar. Just coordination." She didn't respond. The silence on the phone was the loudest thing I'd heard all night. The fallout came in layers the way it always does when you pull the invoice out from under the performance. That night, I opened my laptop. The spreadsheet. 8 years. Every line. I screenshot the full thing. Sent it to the family group chat at 9:47 p.m. No caption. No explanation. Just the data. $27,400 in events. $33,600 in monthly payments. $11,400 for tonight. Total family subsidy from the son whose name was removed, $72,400. Kevin responded first, 6 hours later. "This is manipulative." Aunt Helen responded 3 minutes after that. "Kevin, the man paid $72,000 and you removed his name from a banner. That's not manipulative. That's accounting." Sarah, Kevin's girlfriend, called me 2 days later. She said Kevin had been telling Dad's friends he organized the party. He'd printed business cards. Kevin Mitchell, event coordinator. He was using my party as a portfolio piece for a side business he was trying to launch. The banner wasn't just exclusion. It was branding. He removed my name because he wanted the event to look like his work. He was monetizing my generosity. Sarah said, "I thought you should know." I said, "I appreciate that." She said, "I'm breaking up with him this week." She did. That's Sarah's business, not mine, but I appreciated the timeline. Dad called 3 days after the party. Not from home. From a payphone at the VFW where he's been spending afternoons. His voice sounded like sandpaper and silence. He said, "I read the spreadsheet. I didn't know about most of it." I didn't respond. He said, "Your brother told me he was handling the costs. For years, he told me he was paying." I let that sit. My brother had been claiming my money as his own to our father for a decade. Dad had been thanking the wrong son for 10 years. The man who drove him to 16 radiation appointments and lost a promotion and sent $700 a month was invisible because the other son said, "I've got it covered." Rita emailed me the day after. She attached the original banner order with my name on it and the text Kevin sent requesting the change. "Take Cole's name off. He doesn't need to be on it." Timestamped. In writing, Diane sent the final vendor reconciliation. Hall returned $2,400 of $3,200. Marco returned $3,100 of $4,800. Food already prepped is non-refundable. Photographer returned the full $800. Bar returned $1,200 of $1,600. Open bottles non-refundable. DJ returned $400 of $600. Rita returned $700 of $1,000. Valet returned $200 of $400. Total refunded, $8,800. Total lost, $2,600. I lost $2,600 to end a party I was told I didn't matter at. Cheapest lesson of my life. The $700 per month stopped. First month, nothing. Second month, the gas bill bounced. Third month, water company sent a notice. Dad called. Not angry. Confused. "The utilities are behind." I said, "I stopped paying them 2 months ago." He said, "You were paying the utilities?" I said, "For 4 years, Dad. $33,600. Kevin told you he was handling it." The silence again. The recalculating silence. The silence of a man who just realized the math of his life has been wrong and every thank you went to the wrong address. Kevin's event planning business lasted about 3 weeks. Sarah told 2 people. Those 2 told 6. The story became the guy who takes credit for parties he didn't pay for. 3 potential clients canceled inquiries. The photographer sent a cease and desist for photos Kevin posted on his website, photos shot under a contract with my name on it. Kevin's portfolio, built entirely on my money and my vendors, was dismantled by the same professionals I hired. The website is still live. $14 per month. No clients. The About section says, bringing families together through unforgettable events. That sentence is doing more heavy lifting than Kevin has ever done in his life. 6 weeks after the party, Dad showed up at my apartment. Alone. No mom. No Kevin. He was wearing the same jacket he wore to the party, which I realized is the only good jacket he owns, and that realization hit somewhere between the ribs in a way I wasn't prepared for. He stood in the doorway. I let him in. We sat at the kitchen table. Neither of us spoke for about 2 minutes. The refrigerator hummed. A car honked outside. Then Dad saw the toast. Still on the counter. Printed on $8 cardstock. Never delivered. He picked it up. Read it silently. His hands shook at the part about the pancakes. The burn ones. The morning after Mom left. He set it down carefully. The way you set down something fragile that you've just realized is more important than anything else in the room. He said, "This was for me?" I nodded. He folded the card stock, slowly, along the existing creases, and put it in his jacket pocket. He wore that jacket every day for the next month. The toast lived in it. Uncle Doug told me later that Dad reads it at the VFW. At the bar. Takes it out of his pocket and reads it to whoever will listen. Retired electricians. Plumbers. Guys who understand what it means when someone builds something for you and you're the last person to notice. They buy him a beer every time he finishes. The toast that was written for 84 people gets read to 6 guys on bar stools. And they clap. Every time. 3 months later. Back room of a diner on Route 9. $180 rental. I ordered a sheet cake from the grocery store. $42. Vanilla with blue frosting because Dad's favorite color is blue, and the bakery department at ShopRite doesn't judge you for ordering a retirement cake 3 months late. For guests, Dad, Uncle Doug, Aunt Helen, and Marco the caterer, who came as a guest, not a vendor, and brought a tray of cannoli because Marco cannot physically arrive at any gathering empty-handed. It's a professional compulsion that has crossed into personal territory, and I respect it completely. No banner, no photographer, no Kevin, no seating chart, no master contract, no hallway. I read the toast. From the cardstock. Dad had been carrying it for weeks, but he handed it back to me that morning and said, "Read it yourself. It sounds different when it's your voice." My hands shook. I read about the parking lot in the rain, the phone call, the pancakes, 6 people in a diner back room that smelled like coffee and vinyl seats. When I finished, Doug clapped. Helen cried. Marco ate a cannoli. Dad looked at me and said one sentence. That was worth waiting for. 5 people, a sheet cake, a toast on cardstock, no banner, no missing name. That was the whole party. It was enough. That's it. That's the whole thing. If you're still here, I appreciate it. Subscribe, drop a comment. More coming.